Yes, guys, we are starting to see details take shape on how, when, and even where the NBA season might resume. Over the weekend, we saw NBA Communications Chief Mike Bass confirm the league is in talks to use Disney's Wide World of Sports complex near Orlando as a single site for an NBA campus for games, practices, and housing. Now, Disney, our parent company here at ESPN, is of course a league partner already, and the complex down there is huge. It's roughly 220 acres with multiple arenas. It's adjacent to Disney's 24,000 hotel rooms, and NBA players have familiarity there already too. The Junior NBA World Championships have been held there, plus other youth tournaments. In fact, Trae Young took to Twitter to respond to the news with, "Hey, it's like AAU Nationals all over again." So that is the where, and Adrian Wojnarowski and Zach Lowe reported last week the when that teams expected Adam Silver to formally announce the NBA resuming sometime in June, with actual games starting by late July. So Brian, what has been the reaction around the league to these details taking shape?
Well, Rachel, we have basically a deadline for Friday when the Board of Governors, the owners' meeting, is going to be taking place, and they want to have things finalized. So right now, behind the scenes, we are seeing a lot of horse trading, haggling, and discussion about what they're going to be able to present to them and what they're going to put forward to the teams and the union to put together. The more people I talk to, while everybody recognizes that 30 teams is still on the table, most people I talk to do not think it's going to be all 30 teams. Most people think it's either going to be playoffs only or some sort of playoffs plus model where there's a play-in. And there may even be, there's going to be some discussion about seeding the teams 1 through 16 since there's no travel issues here. How this all gets sorted out is going to be a lot of discussion between now and Friday, but we are on traction to get something of a plan by the end of the week.
Well, Paul, from a player's perspective, do you think most of the guys in the league would have preferred Vegas as the site to resuming the season in Orlando? I know how you guys feel about Las Vegas.
Of course you'll prefer Of course you'll prefer Vegas. I mean, it's Vegas, but I think it makes more sense. Orlando Disney World gives you that campus type feel. Outside of a college campus, this is a place where you can have more containment. Once the protocols are put into place, on a daily basis, it's just easier to control other than going to Vegas where, hotels will be opening pretty soon, I believe in a couple weeks, and it'll be hard to keep players in a contained environment so they can follow protocols.
See, Paul, this is how I know you've matured. I think there was a time 10 years ago where you would have said, come on, we got to do it in Vegas. And now you're saying we would have liked Vegas, but Orlando is smarter. I know there were some guys who had visions of a casino operating inside the hotel where they were quarantined. Hey, maybe they can still set that up in Orlando. All right, so that is a little bit of the where and when. Brian touched on the who, and I want to get more into that. Do all 30 teams participate in this? ESPN has reported there are multiple scenarios floating around. You could have all 30 teams play a reduced number of regular season games, then the top 8 in each conference advance. You could have some regular season games, but a play-in tournament for the final playoff spot. You could have play-in models with less than 30 teams. You could have only 16 teams from the start, go straight to playoffs. So, look, there's issues here about whether teams who are closer to breaking into the playoffs could still compete. There's teams at the bottom, like the Cavs or the Warriors, who don't really want to come back at all. It doesn't really make sense for them since they're out of it. The Athletic reported the NBA has sent the league's general managers a survey asking which option they preferred. Paul, what do you think is the best option?
When I think about it, I think you should go with 18 teams. At least you give that 9th seed at the time opportunity to try to play their way in. I mean, it was so exciting. The end of the year was coming up, and you had teams. This is where teams are jockeying for playoff position, especially in that 9th, 8th seed. And then, teams at the top, they're jockeying for playoff position, for home court advantage. So if I had to minimalize it, then I would go at 18 teams and give that 9th seed a chance at least.
Yeah, that's LeBron has mentioned this in some of the interviews he's given, is that he's worried about immediately going into a playoff game, like right from a training camp into playoffs. And I recognize that, and the NBA may have to address that with some sort of play-in tournament or exhibition games. But you know what, Rachel? Adam Silver has put forth a few things that he would like to change about the NBA, and he hasn't been able to get traction on them. He's tried to institute a play-in tournament. He's tried to talk about seeding 1 through 16 and then reseeding after each round like they do in other sports, and he hasn't been able to do it. This is his moment. He is going to potentially be able, if he wants to force through these things and sort of create a one-off opportunity. And frankly, if the more challenging this becomes, the more legitimacy the championship will take on. And we'll see if he's able to do it or if he gets the owner's support to do it by the end of the week.
Well, play-in tournament would certainly help sort of goose the beginning of this NBA sort of playoff scenario. We all know the first round doesn't usually produce great games, so if the NBA kicks off with just the playoffs or even just a couple exhibition games before, I see a danger of the NBA starting with a little bit of a dud. But the bottom line is the more players, the more teams you put into this mix, the more danger there is. There's more risk that the virus is going to upset the fragile sort of coalition that you're rebuilding here. So I have a hard time seeing it being all 30 teams. Paul, I like your idea of 18 teams. It gives us a little bit of juice right at the beginning, but not too many extra bodies in the building. We'll have to see what they decide. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.